Hello friends, analyzing companies is not an easy process, but we can try to make it simpler. And this video is going to be all about finding ways to simplify this process. If you are a long-time follower of this channel, you know that every time I make a video about best websites for investors, I mention Seeking Alpha, because it is a great place to find data and informations. And recently some very nice people from Seeking Alpha reached out to me with an idea to make a more in-depth video concentrating on their website, on the way I use it for analyzing companies and finding potential investment ideas. So this video is the first ever sponsored video for this channel. I had a number of offers from different companies, but I decided that on this channel you will only get sponsored videos if I truly like and use the product myself. So thank you Seeking Alpha for becoming the first sponsor of this channel. Okay, let's get to work. So I have a number of ways of finding investment ideas, and one of them is screening the stock market. Let me show you how I found the idea and later on the informations that I needed to analyze a company in my recent video. Let's go to Stock Screener, and here we get a number of ready screens. For example, we can see top-rated stocks, high dividend yield stocks, top small cap stocks, or look at different industries. So that is one way of finding something that may interest us and fit our investment strategy. But we can also create our own screens and find companies that fit our specific criteria. So when we click Create New Screen, we can play around with different settings to find something that will catch our attention. But what I did was actually a very simple screen. I created a new screen and decided to look at semiconductor industry, only in the United States. And I got all the companies that fit that criteria. And as you can see, we also get different kinds of ratings here, and they may come in very handy, especially when we don't know anything about a specific company. Of course, we always have to do our own due diligence, but ratings in Seeking Alpha can be used as a quick guide to what we can expect to find in the data after we dig a bit deeper. But in this case, I decided to sort those semiconductor companies by the worst Wall Street rating. Why did I want to see the worst rating? Well, as value investors, we want to be contrarian. We want to have a different view than the market, and also we want to be right, because then we can make some great investment decisions. If we just follow the market, then probably buying the S&P 500 ETF is a much better investment strategy. We cannot outperform the market by always agreeing with it. So let's see what is the most hated semiconductor company on Wall Street. And the title goes to Intel, and that is one of the reasons I recently made a video about it. I found a company that I wanted to analyze because I wanted to understand why Wall Street is so negative about it. And that way we get to the second part of our investigation, and that is finding essential data for our analysis and valuation. Now, even the free version of Seeking Alpha is a very powerful tool, especially when it comes to analyzing companies and finding data. But when you upgrade to the paid version, things start to look so much simpler. You can save so much time. It is absolutely great. But of course, the paid version is not necessary. If you are determined and patient, you can find almost anything on the internet for free. But if you want to save a lot of time, get all the features, historical data, ratings, screening options, and so much more, then the paid version is the way to go. And I would really encourage you to use the affiliate link below, because you will not only be supporting this channel, but you will also get a nice discount thanks to it. Okay, so let me show you what data I look at when I want to analyze a company. So here we have all the fundamental informations about Intel, and usually I start with financials and look through the income statement, balance sheet, and cash flow statement. Now, what is really cool is that we get all the historical data here, and that is crucial to understand where is the company right now. If we look at the revenue, we see it is around $55 billion. That may seem nice, but when we understand that it was almost exactly the same 10 years ago, we start to see a problem. Down here, I also look at net income, and unfortunately, the trend is also very negative. Other metrics I always look at are earnings per share and some dividend data. Then I go to the balance sheet, and the first thing we see is cash and cash equivalents, and this is actually getting much better in case of Intel. But when we go all the way down here, we see the long-term debt. And that is one of the main reasons for concern when it comes to Intel. It is a huge debt. Finally, let's take a look at the cash flow statement. And we can either find different versions of free cash flow down here, or we can just find cash from operations and subtract from it the capital expenditure. And as we can see, that means that Intel has a negative free cash flow right now. That is why I had to use a 5-year average free cash flow for my analysis. Now, if you want to dig deeper or get some perspective on those numbers, you should visit the investor relation page and find SEC filings of Intel. But Seeking Alpha makes this also very simple. We just go to the summary, and down here we get transcripts, presentations, SEC filings, and press releases. So basically everything we may need. Now, when it comes to dividends, Seeking Alpha is the best. If we click dividends, we should get a dividend summary. But because Intel just stopped paying dividends, we can only see the history of those payments. And that is actually how I found out that they suspended their dividends. So let's just change for a moment to another company, for example, Altria. And we get dividend grades, but what I like to use the most is the summary. We get dividend yield, annual payout, payout ratio, 5-year growth rate, and we know for how many years the dividend has been growing. So basically all the necessary informations in one place. Other feature that I use every time I analyze a company is peers. And instantly I can see the sector and industry a certain company is in, and also its main rivals. And what is super useful is that I get all the data about all those companies in one place. So it is so simple to compare them. But we can go a step further. We can also choose Intel and click on profitability, and here we see that its current net income margin is very low. But we also see its 5-year average margin, which is much higher, and we can compare it to the sector median, all in one place. So that is such a time saver, it's incredible. And in case of Intel, we see straight away that the trend when it comes to margins is very bad. And finally, I like to look at the ownership to see if the management has its skin in the game. For that, I go to summary, and down here we get ownership. And straight away, we can see that individual insiders own very little shares. So that is how I find data that I use in analyzing companies and preparing videos for you. But numbers are not enough to understand a company and definitely not enough to tell a story about it. So that is why we go to the third stage of our investigation. Sometimes I also look at news to find investment ideas. But when we look at the summary of any company, we get analysis and news that are connected in some way to that company. So it is really worth spending some time going through them, because that allows us to get a better understanding of the business and its industry. We may, for example, find risks or opportunities we did not know existed. So that can be a great source of knowledge. When I was analyzing Intel, I found news that they are planning to lay off 15% of their staff. And I also found out that they sold their shares of ARM Holdings. So we can find things that may sometimes not be very visible when looking only at the numbers. And also, those analyses and news can on occasions help us to find explanations why a stock is down or up. And then we can make our own decisions. Do we agree with the market or not? Because we should be contrarian, but we also have to be right. Otherwise, we can get ourselves in a lot of trouble. So that is the way I use Seeking Alpha. But I'm curious, what features do you use most often? So please let me know in the comments so that we can all learn from each other. Thank you so much for watching and see you in the next one.